Well, once again, good morning, everyone. My name is Petra Mitchell. I'm the president and CEO of Catalyst Connection. Along with our team here at Catalyst Connection, Nate Broadus, Scott Dietz, Mara Peduto. We have Ali Moe, kind of behind the scenes working the technology. And we have Mr. Jared Glover, who's going to be our keynote presenter this morning. So I'd like to, on behalf of all of us, welcome you and thank you for taking the time. Our agenda for this morning is I'd like to share with you a very brief overview of Catalyst Connection, who we are and what we do. Then I'll be turning it over to Jared. I'll be introducing Jared and turning it over to him, who's going to really share some very, very interesting highlights about what's happening with robotics and advanced manufacturing in our community and what that means for our community members, our job seekers, and our students. And from there, I'll be turning it over to Nate Broadus, who's really your host for today's event, who will then introduce the rest of our team, and we'll be talking about the many programs that we have available for members of our community. So with that, Ali, if you could move to the next slide, please. There we go. To introduce Catalyst Connection, we are an economic development organization. We're a private, not-for-profit organization. Our focus is on serving small and medium-sized manufacturers in southwestern Pennsylvania. We provide management consulting, technical assistance, and of course, workforce development services, with the idea as individual companies grow their business, compete globally, they're able to hire and retain workers for family-sustaining, career-oriented jobs. And our organization has actually been around for over 30 plus years, and we really have a strong presence and a strong footprint in the manufacturing community in southwestern Pennsylvania. Ali, next slide. We're part of what's called the Pennsylvania Industrial Resource Center program. So this program provides us with operating support. You can see our geography there is in southwestern PA. We have 6 sister organizations throughout the state. And basically what that means is that every small manufacturer in Pennsylvania has access to the program and services of a center like ours. In the state budget, if you follow that, we're part of what's called Manufacturing PA, and we share that line item with a Training to Career Workforce Development Program, as well as a University Innovation Initiative. And Ali, is there a slide on the MEP program? If you could turn to that slide. There we go. In addition, we're part of a federally funded program called the MEP National Network. And if you're looking at the slides, you see a logo in every state in the country. That's basically what that means. The MEP program covers every square inch of the United States. Every small manufacturer has access to a program like ours. All of us are dedicated to serving small and medium-sized manufacturers. And really what that means for our community is we're about a phone call away from a company's supply chain, customer base, potential partners, you name it. We are well connected with the entire country when it comes to small and medium-sized manufacturers. Next slide, please, Ali. So back to our community, what do we do here? Again, overall, we provide business support services, and you can see there we focus around products, process, and people. And so what does that mean for workforce development? Well, we know that one of the biggest challenges that our manufacturers have, and actually have had for many years, is the recruitment, the hiring, the developing of highly skilled workers. And so we have built a robust portfolio of organizational and workforce development services that we're very happy to be able to share with you today. Next slide, please. So again, you'll see a lot more details, but this gives you kind of the highlights. We have programs for career awareness and workplace learning at the middle school and high school level. We have programs for job seekers at the unemployed and underemployed level. And we, of course, have programs for incumbent workers, upskilling existing workers. And what I did there is just highlighted, we follow the highlights, what that career pathway really can look like for an individual, perhaps a student, starting at the high school level, earning credentials towards their manufacturing apprenticeship program, continuing on with some additional pre-employment readiness support, and ultimately joining a progressive, globally competitive company as part of an apprenticeship program, excuse me, or an on-the-job technical training program, leading to, like I mentioned earlier, advanced career pathways and family-sustaining jobs. And then continuing on, next slide. Yep, there you go. Thank you, Allie. We are located in Hazelwood Green at the Mill 19 facility. We started, 2020, like many of you. We started very excited about our new facility, ready to engage with our community, ready to host many of our partners to see not only what we're doing at Catalyst, but what our partners at Carnegie Mellon University and the ARM Institute are doing. And of course, as you all know, that kind of got put on hold. We have a global pandemic going on, but we're hopeful to get back to the office, back to work later this year, and really build out the advanced technology programs that we can then introduce to our community. And hopefully the next time we're all together, we'll be together in person instead of on this GoToWebinar. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jared and Nate. So let me just introduce them both for you so you get to know them a little bit. Nate Broadus is our workforce specialist at Catalyst Connection. His role is to engage with local job seekers, community organizations, and employers via a program we call the Real Jobs Initiatives. So it's the robotics, earn and learn, on-the-job training, technical training, while you're really beginning that career. So the Real Jobs Initiatives is to create these new employment pathways for a more diverse workforce. Nate brings to us a proven track record of community and workforce development and is a recent winner of Pittsburgh Magazine's 40 Under 40 Award. Prior to joining us, Nate served as a business account manager for the Center for Employment Opportunities, and in 2018 helped 78 formerly incarcerated people achieve their employment dreams. I can tell you we're very fortunate at Catalyst Connection to have Nate on our team. I'd also at this time like to include Jared Glover, who is a board member of Catalyst Connection and also the CEO and co-founder of Capsen Robotics. Capsen Robotics is an AI company that makes advanced 3D computer vision and motion planning software with a focus on factory and warehouse automation. Jared received his PhD in computer science from MIT, where he developed and applied new theoretical tools for processing 3D orientation information to applications in computer vision and robotic manipulation. Prior, he completed his BS in computer science at Carnegie Mellon University, where he led a team developing robotic walkers for the NurseBot project. He has over 15 years of research experience in robotics and computer vision and over 400 paper citations. And I can assure you, Jared is a dedicated member of our community, not only with his company, but with his neighbors, colleagues, and of course, a strong supporter of Catalyst Connection, as evidenced by him taking the time today to speak to us. So I'm going to turn it over to Jared. And then when Jared's done, you'll be hearing from Nate and the rest of the Catalyst Connection team. Thank you again, everyone. I hope you enjoy our presentations today.
Well, thank you so much, Petra. Can you all hear me right now?
Yes, we can, Jared.
Good.
It sounds great.
Yeah, leave it to the computer science person to have the technical difficulties today. Sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, hi, thank you so much again. I'm Jared Glover, CEO of Capsen Robotics, as Petra said, and very proud board member of Catalyst. I feel very honored to speak to all of you today because you all are doing such wonderful work in our community. I've mainly been confined within the tech community most of my life in the research community, but been very happy to be working on some of these community issues with Catalyst over the last couple of years. I was asked to speak with you today by Catalyst about the Pittsburgh robotics industry and the skills needed to work in robotics. But I'd also like to speak about early STEM education, which a number of you I know are working on, including here at Catalyst, and specifically propose a call to action. Next slide, please. So, is Allison still on? There we go. Thanks. So we have one of the highest concentrations of STEM talent in industry anywhere in the world. This picture is just showing a snapshot of the robotics companies located along just one stretch of the Allegheny. And I think we in the tech industry, the nonprofits, and the local government have both an opportunity because of this resource and an obligation, I would say, to make sure that our schools benefit and our whole community benefits from this massive resource, and that Pittsburgh becomes a leader in early STEM education in the world as well, and not just in industry. Next slide, please. Hopefully in a few years we can say that not only are we the robotics capital of the world, next slide, please, but we're also the STEM education capital of the world. So, I'll come back to the education topic at the end of my talk again, but before I get into the technical slides, I also want to share a little bit about my family background with you. I had a very privileged childhood. My dad was a professor at CMU, while my mom, who went to school to be a teacher, stayed home to take care of my sister, who has disabilities, and also to homeschool me. And with that one-on-one attention from my mom and math tutoring from my dad, I was able to excel, get far ahead in math and science, and went on to study computer science and robotics at CMU and MIT. But most kids don't really get that kind of opportunity. I mean, how many kids out there are there, not just not just in the inner city, but in all of our schools and communities, who could probably excel, just as well as I did, if they had a teacher and a professor as their private tutors. I mean, I'm very, very privileged to have had those opportunities. But back in the 1950s, my mom's parents, who both just passed away a few months ago, lived in Montgomery, Alabama, and were next door neighbors to Rosa Parks, because my grandfather was a Lutheran minister, and served an all-black congregation there, which was common at the time. And so he and my grandma ended up helping to organize the Montgomery bus boycott with Martin Luther King Jr. and others. And because of this, during the boycott, they got constant death threats. Their tires were slashed, and the KKK even threw several bombs at their house. And thankfully, the largest one didn't go off. Otherwise, I might not be here today. But I mention all this because, so many of our inequalities in our society, and Martin Luther King and many others have talked about this already in the past. But so many of the inequalities, I think, can be traced back to education. Not just the lack of education for underprivileged kids, but also the lack of education for the perpetrators of racism and other violence. And so I really strongly feel that the best way to honor the legacy of my grandparents, Rosa Parks, and others is to make sure that everyone gets the same kind of opportunities that I had as a kid. Next slide, please. So back to robotics. So the robotics industry is still fairly small. It's around $6 billion in sales in the U.S. Compared to $80 billion spent on cell phones every year and $200 billion spent on cars. But it's growing by over 20% year over year. And so I fully expect that within a generation, the robotics industry is actually going to surpass the auto industry and become one of the biggest contributors to both GDP and employment. And yes, I said unemployment, although people think robots take jobs. That's kind of the narrative in the media sometimes. The reality is that they actually create more jobs than they take away. They just create them in the robotics industry. So, yes, we'll have fewer people working in Amazon warehouses in the future, but we'll more than offset that by jobs that are created in robotics. In 1950, there were almost as many people working as switchboard operators as there were in education and healthcare combined. But now there are 24 million people working in education and healthcare. That's a tenfold increase over 1950 numbers, and less than 1,000 telephone operators left. I was surprised there were any, actually. But how many fewer nurses and teachers will we have if we still had several million people employed as telephone operators. So progress, certainly changes work, but it doesn't eliminate work. Next slide, please. So the robotics companies here in Pittsburgh are extremely varied. We have almost 100 of them in total, and so they have a variety of jobs. We have several self-driving car companies, and here in Pittsburgh is really where the self-driving car industry was created at CMU and other places. And we have companies that make robots for warehouses and grocery stores, factories and farms, robots for cleaning floors and inspecting power plants, and even one that's sending robots to the moon. Next slide. My own company, Capsen Robotics, makes software that gives robots more spatial intelligence for a variety of tasks like these. And actually, if you can manage to pull up these videos, that would be maybe even more interesting for everybody. The one that's on the left, yeah, that's the first one. This is a robot we installed in McKees Rocks a couple of years ago that has to pick up and disentangle hooks out of a factory bin before it inserts them into a press as part of a larger assembly task. And the next one, the one that was on the right in the slide, is similar to 3 robots that we installed last year on a medical packaging line in New York. And so that's more of a high-paced application. If you could pull that one up, Allison. But I'll keep going while that's coming up. So our software gives robots some core 3D computer vision and motion planning capabilities. And that software did take years to develop, including going back to my PhD and then throughout the life of my company. It took years to develop by highly trained people with PhDs and masters and so on, but it can't completely think on its own. It still needs to be programmed or configured for a particular task. If you go back to the slides, please, and go actually 2 slides forward. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. There's the next video, if you can pull that up. So that's another robot here. So, if the video was playing, and again, I apologize for the technical difficulties today, but basically you would see the robot going through a task, picking objects out of a bin and holding it up and dropping it off somewhere. And then on the left, you would see, the different rows of this simple script, which we call an action script, going by. But anyways, that's sort of the, these action scripts, these simple configuration programs are how we program the robot for a particular task. And this is basically just a sequence of movement, sensory, and timing commands with some simple recovery behaviors to handle, what if you don't have the object the way you think you do, or what if some sensor reading is not what you expect or something. But it's very similar to, and actually even simpler than a language like Scratch, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, but it's an educational programming language for kids. And the point is, you don't need a PhD or even a college degree to program robots in this way with this kind of software. Next slide, please. And if you look at across the robotics industry, not just in our company, but all the companies that are self-driving cars and warehouse robotics and everything, we're not just a bunch of PhDs. We need technicians, assembly workers, machinists, QA testers, customer support, on top of all the regular administrative and salespeople and so on. And for all these non-PhD jobs, we do need people to have a certain set of skills and experiences. We can't just hire anybody off the street, but it's certainly you don't need to have computer science degree to work here. So for one thing, they need to be good at understanding complete systems. That's the next slide, please. This is something that's really important. I mean, when we install robots in a factory, we have the robot arm, we have the gripper or the hand of the robot, the 3D cameras that enable the robot to see, our software, which is running on both the robot's computer and on a Linux computer that we provide, and all the other hardware devices in the robot's workspace, like the conveyor belts, safety switches, and lights, and so on. And as a technician or a tester or these other roles, you need to understand how the whole system works together to accomplish the task. If you could go forward 2 slides now, I think. And they need to be good at symbolic thinking. being able to write down rules and procedures using simple mathematical formulas involving positions and speed, basic algebraic thinking, that kind of stuff. Not trigonometry necessarily, but at least basic algebra. Next slide, please. So the next one is troubleshooting, and this is probably the number one skill out of all of these. And so this is the skill of being able to look at a problem. For example, the robot keeps missing the objects when it goes to pick them up, and figure out what's wrong, what's causing that, and how to fix it. Is it the calibration, meaning is the robot confused about exactly where its camera is looking? Are the fingers bent or attached incorrectly? Is it the lighting? What kind of diagnostic tests can I run to rule out these different possibilities? What can I see in the log files? In other words, detective work, which is really something you gain from doing this kind of work. And then next is using software, and this one almost doesn't need to be mentioned because kids these days are so good at using technology, but there's still disparities which need to be addressed in education. So we ensure all kids are getting practice using complex software at an early age, not just simple apps on a phone, but complicated software that requires training and experience. I think we're 2 slides ahead now. So then using tools is probably the most obvious one, but it's worth taking seriously in an education policy because it's kind of got the opposite story from the software skills, and that kids these days are using tools less at home than in previous generations. So we need to make sure we fill that gap with education, I think, and I've heard that from a number of others as well. And finally, scripting, which is related to symbolic thinking, but within the context of programming or writing down procedures, like the example I showed a few slides ago in our software, but basically telling a computer system or robot how to execute a series of steps and how the computer or the robot should respond when particular steps in that procedure don't go as planned. For example, what should the robot do if it fails to pick up an object from the bin? When should it try again? When should it take another image to get a better look? When should it give up and call a person over to help? These are all things that need to be specified by the person writing that script. So, if you look at all these skills, so next slide, please. Most of them are things you just learn by doing them, particularly in project-based work, where you really have to put these to use. But there's some additional practical issues that show up in hiring in both robotics and manufacturing. For example, we've talked to manufacturers who say they have to reject a lot of job applicants because they can't use measuring tape, right? Because they're not good with fractions. And so we still have this skills gap with even basic math skills, which I also think, project-based work, using measuring tape and calculating with the resulting fractions and so on can really help with. And these are all skills which a number of great organizations in the Pittsburgh area are working on. Next slide, please. So, here I just want to show a few of the STEM programs that I've learned about recently. This list is very incomplete, I'm sure, but I just wanted to highlight a few of them. And we'll hear about what Catalyst is doing later on today, obviously. But the YWCA provides STEM services to boys and girls, both in schools and community organizations. Girls of Steel is a CMU program that teaches groups of girls how to use real machine tools to build robots. Startable is a program run by Innovation Works to teach kids about entrepreneurship. Bots IQ runs BattleBot-style robot competitions. BirdBrain Technologies makes robot, math, and programming kits for students of all school ages. And then Catalyst, as I said, has both STEM programming and workforce development programming, which Scott and Nate and the rest will tell you about soon. And then there's the governor's PA Smart initiative, which is really cool because it provides funding for schools and other organizations to start their own STEM programs, which helps, from what I've heard, it helped to start the computer science program in South Fayette Township, which is the first district I'm aware of in the area to fully incorporate computer science into its curriculum at all grade levels. And that's really exciting to me, not just as a computer scientist, but if you look at what happened in Estonia, that's the last icon there in the bottom right, the country in Eastern Europe, they incorporated computer science into their K-12 curriculum, all grade levels, about 9 years ago. And a few years after that, and since, they've risen to be #1 in Europe, in all of Europe, in math and science. And Estonia has about the same population as southwestern PA. So, I really think if Estonia can do it, then we can too. That's kind of my data point there that I think is really interesting. But we need more data points like that to really show the benefits of these programs. So just to wrap up, I mean, from all the conversations I've had recently with leaders and some of the STEM programs in the area, I think we're well on our way. You can probably transition to the last slide now, Allison. I think the biggest missing piece remaining is to get more of these programs and STEM curricula integrated, really integrated fully into the schools. And I think the best way to do that is for all of us, tech companies, nonprofits, teachers, politicians, to work together, both to enact policy changes and provide resources. And so that's why I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. And I look forward to participating in this really important work going forward. And I think Catalyst has a great team to help make all this happen. They have connection in their name for a reason, because they're really good at connecting people and organizations. And I really think that's what needs to happen to enact these bigger changes. So, please let me know how I can help, any way I can help with all of your efforts and this overall effort. And thank you so much for listening today.
Thanks a lot, Jared, for presenting everything that Capsen is going on, and giving your framework for what the future of STEM education and robotics employment in the region can look like. I'd just like to thank everyone from Catalyst who came together to make this event happen, including Ali Mo, who was the brains behind the technical everything technical that's happening. So coming up next is our Director of STEM Initiatives, Scott Dietz. Scott manages a wide swath of programming here at Catalyst that serves a diverse group of audiences from the K-12 space to the pre-employment space. I'm really proud to be able to share the floor with him. And Scott, you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Nate. And again, thanks, Jared. I think it was a lot of really great information. I was thinking about the 20 other people that I need to put you in front of to give that very presentation. What great information. And just one sector of our manufacturing here in southwestern Pennsylvania. Of course, with Catalyst covering 11 counties of southwestern PA, I think we have a really diverse mix of manufacturers, everything from food to metals to plastics to medical devices, robotics, etc. But so many of our companies that are putting robotics and automation into their companies too. It's an exciting time, but it's also, as Jared mentioned, a really important time for us to continue to build these skills. And as Nate had mentioned, I handle all of our K-12 STEM initiatives, and we've been involved in this space for about 20 years now, out of the 30 plus years that Catalyst has been involved in the community. So we have a very long-standing history of engaging with schools, engaging with manufacturers, providing real-world opportunities, but also engaging with after-school programs and community organizations as well. So we're excited to be able to introduce this information to you. I only have about 10 minutes today, so I'm going to go really fast and hit some of the highlights and some of the high-level information. But we will be providing a lot more information to you after the meeting. And we'd be happy to follow up with one-on-one conversations with you about any of these opportunities or programs. We'd also, of course, encourage you to throw any questions you might have in the chat throughout the rest of the conversation today, too. So really all of our programs are around this effort of trying to build a pipeline of talent for our manufacturers here in southwestern Pennsylvania and being responsive to that need for a tremendous number of workers. Petra and I were actually talking about this morning as the president is in Pittsburgh today announcing a new infrastructure bill or proposing one. The ripple effect of that and the need for additional workers and the growth of the manufacturing space is tremendous, especially if that bill and that new spending goes through. But all of our programs really are in three main areas: creating awareness or changing perceptions of manufacturing, experiential learning opportunities, or skill development programs. So I'm just going to hit the highlights again. You can see on your screen a matrix of all of those programs. So I'm just going to hit the highlights on some of the programs that we offer in each of those 3 broad buckets. So under creating awareness, one of the things we found is that students don't necessarily have a general awareness of what manufacturing is today, or that there are career opportunities available in the manufacturing space. As for adults, we found that there's still tremendous misconceptions or perception issues of what these careers are. So we have created a wide array of resources from websites. There's 2 different websites we've created, makingyourfuture.org and explorenewmfg.org, that provide resources and information about manufacturing. We've created 2 mobile games you can download for free from the app stores and play games, but also learn about manufacturing careers through those games. We've created flyers and handouts and posters, virtual scavenger hunts, a library of videos that can be watched to see what manufacturing looks like today, panel discussions that we regularly hold to introduce these career opportunities, events around National Manufacturing Day, and lastly, as my shirt says, the Navigators program, which is an ambassador program of young professionals engaging with our community and providing their stories and their backgrounds and their pathways as an example for other young folks as to the careers that they can pursue in manufacturing. So again, just a wide array of resources around changing perceptions and creating awareness. On the experiential learning side, we've engaged with our employers and educators for in-school or after-school programming that we've either run or we've created. Those include the What's So Cool About Manufacturing student video contest for 7th and 8th graders, where the students make videos about what they think is cool about manufacturing and share those with their community. A Manufacturing Innovation Challenge program, which is a high school real-world design challenge. A new program we're launching in May called Making Inspiration, where students will be able to engage in hands-on, engaging experiential learning opportunities virtually. And then we support a lot of other experiential programs in the region, including the BOTS IQ program that was mentioned earlier, the Fluid Power Challenge for middle schoolers, et cetera. So I think we have a pretty strong, robust mix of experiential, hands-on engaging opportunities for students, but also are pretty attuned to the other opportunities in the community. And then lastly, in the skill development bucket, really this is our newest entree of services, and really our pre-apprenticeship program is the core program in this space. So how can we provide students with industry information, training that prepares them for careers in manufacturing, but also puts them on a path where they can get advanced standing, or really make their resumes and their applications at companies really stand out by having prior knowledge and exposure to manufacturing skill sets, specifically around safety and quality. So our pre-apprenticeship program is a state-registered pre-apprenticeship program that directly connects to the content of our apprenticeship program, but also provides the students with those real-world opportunities to get industry-recognized credentials that are national credentials, actually, that they can carry with them as they go forward, no matter what pathway they choose, whether that's college or a 2-year degree or direct to work. So again, I know I went very fast. We have a lot of programs, a lot of initiatives. We could probably spend an hour going through, but if I look at how can you help, obviously a lot of you in the community have strong connections to the school districts that are in your community or their specific schools. We work with about 60 or 70 school districts a year, but are always looking for connections to specific building principals or new school districts we're currently not working with. So please tap us into your network in that regard. Some of these programs can certainly be done in an after-school setting, so we can talk to you about how we could bring those to an after-school location. And then all the career information and the career exploration resources we've created can be utilized really by any age group. So something that can be informative for both the individuals you're working with, but also the education staff and the staff of your team too. So with that, I think my time is probably up, so I'm going to turn it back to Nate.
Thanks, Scott, for giving the 100,000-foot overview of one of the deepest things that we have going on here at the organization. Next up is my colleague, Mara Peduto. Mara does a great job. She manages not only our OpNext program, but our apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship offerings as well, which means that really she does a great job of supporting people before they get to work. And then whenever they get to work, that she helps them get skilled, get promoted, and move into bigger and better opportunities, which I think is something that all of us value for the job seekers we're looking to serve. So take it away, Mara.
Hi, everyone. As Nate mentioned, I manage our apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship program. The opportunity I'm going to be talking with you all today is the Operation Next training opportunity. And I know we're getting close to lunch, so I'm going to start this conversation, hopefully perk everyone's ears up with this opportunity is a no-cost, free training opportunity that has no restrictions to who could apply or be enrolled into the program. This program is for incumbent, dislocated, and or job seekers populations. Hopefully a few of you have already talked to me prior, or maybe have even put people into the program and have seen the benefits to it. Operation Next was originally created curriculum by the Army, and they used it for transitioning military personnel. When someone was leaving the Army, they were given 6 months. They created this curriculum in a hybrid model, and they found great success. This is a pilot program, and they're now trying to disseminate it into civilian population to help in the manufacturing workforce, as we just talked about, all these open jobs. So there's 3 different training opportunities or pathways included in the Operation Next program. They are welding, CNC machinist, and industrial maintenance. All 3 of the pathways have a virtual component. They're online classes that can be done on an individual's own time. They are self-paced, and all they would need is a computer with internet. 2 of the pathways, we've partnered with local training providers to then give some hands-on experience. For the machinist pathway, we've partnered with New Century Careers to provide a certain amount of training that would provide an individual 2 NIMS credentials. And for the welding pathway, we have partnered with CCAC, and we're starting a partnership with Pittsburgh Technical College to provide welding training. The welding training would lead to an AWSD 1.1 certificate, which I'm not completely familiar with, but I've been told it's an entry-level welding certification, and hopefully some of you may know what that means in the workplace. We're going to continually have cohorts for the hands-on training throughout the year. The virtual component can be started at any time. If anyone was interested in the more details of either when the specific trainings were, what an individual may need to do, you would just email me. I see Ali has online the flyer, which hopefully you may have seen prior, or we can send out to all the participants with my information. And we're looking for individuals to start, especially coming the summer. We're going to be having new cohorts starting. We currently have a few cohorts in play with CCAC and New Century Careers, and I would love to get referrals or people who are interested in learning more information and how we can push this out to all the job seeker population.
Hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Mara, for sharing. I just wanted to, thank everybody, all the Catalyst staff and everybody, all the community organizations that have joined us here today on this call. I think that it's great that we're able to get together and talk about, how do we combine the work that we're doing in the manufacturing workforce space with the work that you're doing in preparing job seekers for their next opportunities, and how do we, make it so that they're able to best take advantage of, what's coming up next. What really made it evident that this was a thing that needed to happen was early on, Petra was talking about the ARM Institute that we share a building with them down in Hazelwood. And I was touring the ARM Institute, and I'm not a manufacturing guy. And I get to the end of the tour, and the gentleman who's giving me the tour asked me, like, how do we get more young people into these careers? And I'm just like, I think that we need to do a better job of letting more young people know that these careers exist, right? Outside of the context of like cool science fiction stuff. You know what I mean? So I think that there's one of the things that we found later, a robotics company reached out to me and was looking for somebody in their additive manufacturing department. And at the time, I was pretty unfamiliar with what additive manufacturing was, but it's the industry term for 3D printing, essentially. So I'm scrolling down Facebook one night. It's like a Saturday. I'm off work. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And I see a young woman she posted a video of her 3D printing some stuff with her kids. They're making toys and stuff. So I inbox her and I'm like, hey, what do you know about 3D printing? And she was like, what the heck is I'm sorry, what do you know about additive manufacturing? She said, what the heck is additive manufacturing? And she was like, this is just a thing that I bought because I was tired of my kids playing video games all day. But she had spent like the last 3 years of her and her kids' lives teaching them how to use it and learning how to use it herself while never really knowing that there was a career attached to that, right? So, you know, she was able to, when she found that out, she was able to take the skills that she had built and was able to apply them to, you know, changing her career field. And, you know, like, she is an amazing story, but one of the things that I find, and that I know you all find working with job seekers, is that there's a lot more brilliant people who are coming through our doors than I think, you know, they would even be willing to give themselves credit for. You know, Petra mentioned that I had previously worked at the Center for Employment Opportunities. I had a gentleman who came to me after doing 13 years in prison, and he said, you know, Nate, I've been, you know, building my computer skills since even prior to me getting incarcerated. You know, I would love to do something where I could put those skills to use and not be forced into a construction job or a labor job, because I don't think that's right for me. And unfortunately, at that point in time, I didn't necessarily have the tools to be able to connect him to the opportunity that would allow him to take advantage of his skills. But you know, more and more each day, we find out that really those opportunities are exploding in Pittsburgh, and it's you know, being able to combine your efforts with our efforts that will help, you know, job seekers who can take advantage of those, you know, really jump in and get involved. So, you know, I think Jared did a great job of talking through what some of the careers were, because I think that one of the things that, you know, we miss out on is that, you know, there's so many careers in manufacturing, and it's really hard to know like which one you should get started with, right? So, Ali, would you be able to go to the machinist tab for me? You know, there's a wide variety of careers that you'll encounter in the manufacturing space, and I think that one of the things that, you know, we as an organization and you know, the education partners could stand to do a little bit better at is telling folks what their options are, right? So, you know, one of the things that my wonderful coworker Hannah Kishenko, who's on this call, uh, did was she put together some handouts, some of which are available in the handout section on the main hub. They kind of spell out, you know, what some of these careers are, what type of skills and tools you'll need to use. Can you just scroll down a little bit, Ali? And you know what type of salaries you can expect. Can you go to the welding handout, please, Ali? So I think that one of the best thing about this is that in the handout section, she's included about 4 handouts so that you can open them, download them as needed. But really, if you go to our website, as you see on the screen, makingyourfuture.org, all of this information lives there. It's a great tool for job seekers and for workforce development professionals who are interested in figuring out how they can best get their participants into a manufacturing opportunity. Manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, robotics, and Industry 4.0 careers are all endemic to the organizations and the companies that we work with, and we have resources and education and training tools available for all of those. So as you can see, so you know, she showed the machinist handout, and it talked about some of the tools and the skills that you need, as well as the you know, prospective salary and how you can get this training. That same thing exists for CNC operating, welding, computer-aided drafting, CAD, technicians, quality control, industrial maintenance, electrical engineering, and more. And really, you know, I just think that, you know, the more that we can get this information in the hands of job seekers, in the hands of people who really need it, you know, it'll allow them to make more well-informed decisions about, you know, their own employment. All right, so one of the things that I would like to do is I would like to talk a little bit about, Scott, if you could help me out, making your future and explore the new manufacturing. If we could kind of just take a few minutes and explain what the differences are between those two resources and why they're beneficial.
Yeah, I think you know, there are 2 brands that we have under the Catalyst Connection branding scheme that certainly dovetail together and overlap, and we have websites dedicated for both. So again, as Nate mentioned, makingyourfuture.org as well as explorenewmfg.org. Really, our Explore brand encapsulates all of our 7th grade through 12th grade programs, and we are trying to do some new partnerships to get us into the K through 6 space as well. But really, the Explore, the new manufacturing, is you know, a lot of times students don't know exactly what the career pathways they want to take yet, or think they know, but then perhaps that decision is based on information that's limited, or they don't have the full picture of the possibilities. Let's say, for example, if they're interested in a healthcare career, and maybe they only think of nursing or being a doctor, but don't think about the robots that are doing medical support, or medical device manufacturers, or IT companies that are doing software for the medical industry. So really, that's what the whole Explore the New Manufacturing program is. It just gives students an opportunity to explore those careers and broaden their horizons, as we talked about earlier. And then the Making Your Future brand is really aimed at the 18 and older, really 18 to retirement, I guess you could really say. It's never too late to I guess pursue a career in manufacturing or to add new skill sets. So in that space in particular, that's where a lot of the stuff that Mara talked about and the training opportunities that Nate talked about. But I think the great thing about Nate's role at Catalyst is he can then provide the bridge and the connecting to those two worlds, so those two brands, or those two broad-based initiatives, where we're trying to transition students from one step to the next, providing career coaching. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for students to go directly into employment. And so to be able to, though, add that extra career coaching, provide the connections to our manufacturers, put in a good word for them, get their resume to the top of the pile, so to speak, by putting kind of an endorsement by Catalyst Connection on their resume, not just another resume in the pile. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for your job seekers to connect to us, or those in your community in general connect to us in that full spectrum of activities. So if that's what you wanted me to touch on, Nate.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect, Scott. Thank you. And so just to talk a little bit more about what I do at Catalyst, I manage our Real Jobs program, also known as the Making Your Future program. And a big part of my role is connecting with job seekers, community organizations like many of you, and employers, to be able to figure out how to best close that loop, right? How do you take a person who was yesterday unfamiliar with manufacturing, get them the skills that they need so that they can take on an entry-level manufacturing job? Or how do you take someone, or also we know that that situation isn't feasible for everyone's life, right? We have people in our program right now who have decent paying jobs who are interested in switching to a different career. So how do we, put them in a situation so that they can build their skills, so that they can, segue into manufacturing in a way that's appropriate for them? So that's a big part of what I do, and it's a great opportunity to see all the various nuances that our job seekers and our community members have. But also one of the things that's been really encouraging is the opportunity to work with Scott and Mara over the past year or so to help identify, what are the needs that are the organizations that we work with, what are their needs, and how do we best help serve or mitigate some of those needs. So whether it's access to technology, or whether it's the times and dates that certain trainings are going on that become unfeasible for adult job seekers who are looking for training. One of the things that's been really encouraging is that, and part of me feels like it's like our manufacturing, the manufacturing in us, is that we've always been, Catalyst has always found itself willing to be flexible and willing to advocate for those folks that we're looking to serve. And I think that one of the things that we find is that in manufacturing, we want to be sleek, we want to be efficient. We also want to be effective and figure out ways that we can mitigate any negatives in our process. And so one of the things that I've really seen and it's been really encouraging is that we found new ways to engage organizations and populations that haven't been able to take advantage of our resources in the past. And I just think that by partnering with you all, and bringing everyone to the table, we can figure out new ways that we can get folks into these manufacturing jobs as they open up. So really, that's my mission. That was my goal in bringing us all here together here today. It looks like we're going to be rounding this thing out a little bit earlier than we expected to. So you guys will all get to go have lunch. But really, I mean, the one thing I want to encourage everybody to do is that, to reach out to us at Catalyst, reach out to me. I would love to be the bridge between the resources that we have, for the community and the community members that you serve that need those resources. and to figure out, how to best get those in their hands. Thanks, everybody. I look forward to connecting.
Could I just say one more thing too?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I've also been talking to a number of our politicians, both locally and the national politicians recently about some of these subjects. And, I have to say that certainly the representatives we have here, in the mayor's office and our local Congress people and, Governor Wolf's office, I think are all very strong supporters of all this workforce and education work that we're all doing in our organizations. And so I think if we can collectively, go to them, maybe not just individually as organizations, but if we can kind of come together and make some very specific policy recommendations, I think they'll be very, very receptive to what we have to say. So maybe that's something that we can all think about after this meeting is what kind of policy changes do we want to see at both the local and the national level, and how can we work together to talk to these receptive politicians to make it happen.
Thank you so much, Jared, for sharing that. I think that that's incredibly important, and also I think that that's something that this group, the panelists and Catalyst as an organization, are uniquely positioned to do, is to reach out to some of those local elected and community connections and make those policy recommendations. So with that said, thank you to Jared for joining us, Capsen. Thank you, Petra, for helping us organize this thing. Thank you to Ali Mo, and thank you to Mara and Scott and the entire Catalyst crew for making this happen. For the attendance, I'll be looking to put together another one of these events coming up in the future. We have more community partners and clients who are interested in engaging the community and talking manufacturing careers. And so I look forward to engaging you soon, and I will give you the rest of your day back. Thank you so much.